All right. Hi, everyone that are joining. We'll just give it another 30 seconds to a minute or so before we get started. All right. Give it about 10 seconds, and then we'll kick things off. Perfect. All right. Hello, everyone. Welcome to today's webinar. We are so happy to have you with us and super excited to be joined by Be the Match. They're going to be talking about how they are using text messaging as part of their candidate communication strategy. So just a few housekeeping items before we get started. So a reminder, today's webinar is only 30 minutes. We know time is valuable, so we really do appreciate you carving out the 30 minutes to join us. We do love questions, so please, if you have any questions, ask it via the Q&A. We encourage questions, so please, again, ask away. And then lastly, today's session will be recorded, so we will distribute this afterwards. Today, you're going to be hearing from Carrie Elias. She is Senior Manager of Talent Acquisition at Be the Match. So Carrie, I'll kick it over to you to introduce yourself and say a little bit more about your role.
Hello, everybody. As Jade mentioned, I'm Carrie Elias. I'm the Senior Talent Acquisition Manager with Be the Match. I've been with Be the Match for 2.5 years. Prior to that, I have about 20 years in the talent acquisition and recruiting industry, have worked in both staffing and as a consultant. I'm also a mom of 2 very busy boys. I'm a hockey mom, baseball mom, and football mom. And I am lucky enough to work for this wonderful organization, Be the Match. I like to say I have the best job ever of saving lives.
Awesome. Well, thank you, Carrie, and welcome. We're super excited to have you. And my name is Jade Crane. I am a customer success lead over here at Sense. I partner a lot with our corporate customers, and lucky I get to partner with Carrie and work with her on a day-to-day basis. So for those of you on here that are not familiar with Sense, we offer a full suite of talent engagement tools that will allow you to source, engage, and retain your talent across the life cycle. So we do power talent engagement at over 1,000 organizations today, helping them serve over 100 million candidates. And it's also a technology just used every day by over 50,000 recruiters that will allow them to really drive more hires, so 8 million hires every year. The last call I'll have here, we do directly integrate with all major ATSs that will allow you to bring in your candidate data, your job information, really to allow you to personalize that communication at scale. But enough about us. Carrie, please go ahead and tell us a little bit more about Be the Match.
Yeah, so Be the Match, we also are known as the National Marrow Donor Program, but what our mission is to save lives through cellular therapy. And what that really means is that we serve people whose lives have been impacted with blood disorders like leukemia or sickle cell anemia. And if the course of action is a bone marrow transplant, more often than not, they'll be referred to Be the Match. We have the largest bone marrow registry in the world. And there are selfless human beings out there every single day that have signed up to be a part of our registry and donate to a patient in need. Since we opened since Be the Match was started, we've impacted over 100,000 lives. And last year was a record-breaking year with over 7,000 transplants conducted through our organization. I have a really quick video next, Jade, that I'm super proud of that kind of talks a little bit more about us and also highlights one of my team members, Chris Buckley.
All right.
My name is Chris. I'm a talent acquisition partner, and I've been at Be the Match for over a year. I'm originally from New Orleans, Louisiana, born and raised, very much a Southern boy. Grew up in a small family, just me, my mom and dad, with family, mostly in Louisiana, but also in other parts of the South, like Mississippi. When I'm not busy with the kids, I'm trying to take up golf. I used to snowboard before I had kids. Going to try and make a snowboarding comeback this year. I went to Xavier University of Louisiana, which is in New Orleans. It's the only historically Black college that is also Catholic. At an HBCU, you learn the importance of community, that community is everything. And so as students and alums, we're often asked to step up for our community, and we do that. And that's why Be The Match is placing such emphasis on being at HBCUs and showing up on campus. Cancer doesn't discriminate, and so it's so important to diversify the registry. As a talent acquisition partner, my job is to manage the hiring process for our openings across positions that we have at the company. By helping us bring the best people who are the right fit for our jobs, it helps us achieve our mission. Our vision is to democratize cell therapy with equal outcomes for all. And what that means is that everyone has an equal chance at life and hope. So it's important that our organization looks like the communities that we serve, that we bring in diverse viewpoints and have everyone at the table, because that's how we're going to get the best ideas to achieve those equal outcomes for all. This is a great place to work because people are happy and fulfilled in what they do, and they're given the tools and resources as well as positive environment to do their best work.
That's a great video, Carrie. I loved hearing that spotlight on Chris and his story. And speaking of just talent acquisition, Carrie, I'd love to hear more about your team and really why you sought out Sense and just text messaging in general.
Yeah, so my goal really was to ultimately create the best-in-class talent acquisition organization. And to do this, we knew we needed to kind of revisit our overall candidate experience, how we're sourcing candidates, communicating with them, and also figure out a way to do it quickly so that we can get people onboarded seamlessly. And so in order to kind of do all of this, that's what kind of led us down the path of Sense and text messaging.
I love that you called out the candidate experience and just connecting quickly with the candidate. It's really aligned with just what we're hearing in general from other talent leaders as well. In fact, we actually recently surveyed over 1,000 job seekers who are actively looking for new opportunities. And the data really showed very clearly that speed in the recruiting process really does matter and could ultimately end up making or breaking the entire recruiting process. So when asked companies how they can make the job search or application experience better, 37% said faster response times from recruiters really do matter. In that second box there, 43% of candidates said quick responses after application are a really critical factor when they're working or communicating with the recruiter. And then lastly, 32% said that a slow response could really be a driver or a main reason that they might quit applying for a job. So everything you touched on and just what we're seeing here, really a common theme of speed and faster response time goes a long way. Which also goes to show that texting is a preferred method of communication, actually ranked #1 when we ask the candidates what they prefer to use. So I don't think this is a shock really to anyone, just to call out that companies who are incorporating texting into their recruiting process can really benefit and address the speed issues that the candidates had reported in that prior slide. So Carrie, I would love to hear from you really how you're incorporating texting into your candidate experience overall at Be The Match. So what were some of the key drivers behind your move to recruiting automation and just text messaging?
Well, and even before I talk about this, I just want to mention something that early in my career, I learned like what a candidate wants is just to hear back. Like it's not very hard. They just want to hear from a recruiter. And sometimes with mounting jobs and positions that you're working on and that sort of thing, you find yourself like, how am I going to respond to every single candidate? And I think that texting is a way to make them feel like we heard them, we're responding to them. So certainly speed is one thing. It's never easy to hear you didn't get a job, but then when you can, send them a quick text and say, hey, I'm sorry you didn't get the job, but let's schedule a time if you want to hear more. And you can kind of put it back into the candidate's hands. Also, when people are hearing back more frequently, they're happier. You get candidates that really appreciate. I've had multiple candidates tell me, it's so much easier that you guys do this through text messaging, because then I can just schedule time in your calendar or reach out to you. Like, they might be at work and maybe they can't send a text right away, but they can shoot one right when they're in the parking lot. They can send one over. And so that quick response time leads to engagement. So we have people that are engaged with us. They feel good about what they're hearing from Be the Match. And then ultimately, when it comes to onboarding, not only is it, my recruitment team, it's my onboarding team. They're able to make sure that we have 3 days to fill out an I-9 form. I'm sure everybody here has that same rule that you have to have somebody fill out an I-9 form in 3 days. And once we could create a formatted message that we're sending out to our new hires to ping them with reminders and that sort of thing, it really made our lives so much easier. It made our administrative processes easier because things were getting done when they needed to get done, and we were staying compliant and all that good stuff. So that's just kind of some of the key drivers behind what we saw.
Wow, yeah, that's wonderful. I really do love hearing your perspective, especially like as you're in the weeds, and your team's in the weeds doing the day-to-day of the job. So walk us through then what you're seeing in terms of results with your text messaging strategy.
Yeah, so sourcing was I felt like sourcing, it made it so much easier. I always call it, there's 2 different types of sourcing, right? There's the proactive and the reactive. The reactive is when a candidate is applying to a job. When we send out text messages to them, we're getting things scheduled, the ball moving very quickly, and things are moving along. But then when you're doing outreach through our sourcing efforts, we were seeing that candidates were responding more when we could provide them with our calendar functions and we're texting them directly. The hiring leaders are happier because they're getting candidates quickly. And even in addition to the hiring leaders, I'll say my talent acquisition team members are happier because candidates are responding to them faster. And then overall, that leads for a better experience for everybody, really, talent acquisition, candidates, hiring leaders. And then it truly did streamline some of our programs and processes. And I mentioned here onboarding and administrative, but even when we've hosted diversity job fairs or even job fairs in general, I was able to send out broadcast messages through our texting application to invite talent to join us in those different events. Totally streamlined our program and did it quickly just through sending out an invite on their text message. So on their mobile phones, they were accepting and joining our job fairs. We also saw that when there was paperwork that was needed, candidates would respond much faster over text message than they would if we were trying to email them extra paperwork and that sort of thing. We also saw the calendar function really streamlined getting those phone screens set up. Oftentimes, if we were sourcing them, we'd send them the link to our calendar. And then you can also set up the reminders on the text message, which was huge because, and I had a couple of candidates say to me, thank you for sending me the text message reminder. I mean, it wasn't me, it was Sense, right? That was sending the reminder, but it made it so much easier for them just to get access to, myself or my team members or whomever was scheduling those interviews.
Well, yeah, these are amazing results. And it really, like you mentioned, it's a win-win for both the candidate, making it easier on them to get in touch with you and engage, but also on your acquisition team and making that process easier internally. So really saving yourselves time. So I mean,
Yeah,
again, win-win. That's wonderful. Well, I always like to leave those that are watching with any wisdom you might want to share or words of advice, just in case they might be getting started on their texting journey, or they're already very far into their texting journey and just want to hear any words of wisdom from you. So what advice would you have to share with a fellow talent leader who might not know where to start or really how to make sure they ensure success?
I think the number one thing is you have to get your team to adopt the tool and the technology. And that can be hard to do. So, and plus, I work for a nonprofit. Like, we're not just spending money to spend money. We want it to be a great product and be utilized and also see results from it. And so in order to ensure adoption of the tool, of course we did our regular training, but then you have to figure out ways to integrate it into your daily life of recruiting and talent acquisition and that sort of thing. So for the early adopters, we really tried to highlight successes to the rest of the team. So we would talk about different ways they were using Sense and how it was impacting. And then once I got people to start using it, I don't think they would stop using it at this point. Like it made things so much easier for everybody that I'd be hard pressed. I think everyone would be like, why would we get rid of text messaging? It made our lives so much easier. So and I also did use the reports that Sense was using. Our Sense provides for me. I would showcase some of our numbers and that sort of thing. It was good for me too, because I can use it to showcase to our leadership team kind of what we're doing with the Sense product. Also, I really tried to think outside of the box. Like when we were having inefficiencies in our different programs and processes, the I-9 being a perfect example, like sometimes we were getting really close to our 3-day deadline and we weren't getting in touch with our candidates. And just by simply putting together a crafted template that we send out to all of our candidates, this has reduced that, having to follow up with candidates multiple times to get their I-9 documentation. Also, I mentioned the diversity job fair that we did. Being able to broadcast message, I was very surprised. I didn't have people sending me notes back saying, don't text me. They had already, kind of opted in, right? Being a part of our talent database. And so the interest that I got from the job fairs we were hosting was pretty significant and brought in a lot of people, so much so that we were getting additional hires that way. So I always say, like, how else could we be using texting to kind of streamline some of our different programs and processes?
I love everything you just said. I love these two main pieces of advice you put in the box here. And personally, as a success manager, my role here really is to make sure that I'm helping enable you and your team to adopt the tools that they have. So that's music to my ears when I hear adoption is kind of the main driver first, to adapt and use the technology, and then you'll see the results kind of flow as it goes. So love that. Well, Carrie, thank you so much. It's wonderful to hear your story, and we really always appreciate your time. I'm going to check to see if we have some questions, which I think we do in the Q&A. So we'll spend the next few minutes looking at these questions. Let's see. Okay. All right. So Carrie, the first question, can you clarify the range of reduced sourcing time? So kind of what is the meaning behind the range of your reduction?
So there's a couple of examples I can use, but definitely when candidates have applied directly to our jobs and we send them the calendar link to book time for an initial phone screen or WebEx. We use WebEx at our organization. I think I said 90% response rate. It's probably even higher than that. When a candidate has applied, they're definitely engaged and want to come work for us. So the response time is maybe a half hour, and we get it very quickly. and they're scheduling time with us directly. So it's not all the back and forth of, hey, here are some time options for you. Does that work for you? Yeah, I'll pick this time. Then you got to send out a calendar invite. It cuts all of that out. And then on the proactive sourcing side, utilizing that calendar link, I send it, myself and my team members have been sending it when we direct source candidates. So we might be on LinkedIn doing some recruitment, and you send them the link to your calendar and they can book time directly. So you know who's engaged in actually talking to you. And I would say about a 50% response rate on that, which again, can be significant. If you're sending out 10 in-mails and you get 5 back, that's pretty significant. And sometimes they'll respond to you just to want to know more, or maybe they're not interested in the job you're recruiting on, but they're also interested in, you know, something else about Be the Match. And this can be significant for us because we're always trying to add potential donors to our registry. And so if they have a good experience with us, and then they might be compelled, you know, from hearing our mission and what we're all about, they may reach out and get a swap kit so that they're joining our registry. So our employment brand is just important into like our overall brand of what we do as an organization.
Yeah, no, that makes total sense. Wonderful. Okay. Let's see. What has been some of the candidates' feedback in terms of your use of texting?
Candidates love it. I mean, I hear all the time, they're like, thanks for texting me. It makes it so much easier. I've never had one person like tell me to take them off the list or, you know, respond that way. Sometimes they say I'm not looking right now or what have you, but I've never had really anything. And as far as I've heard from my team, they haven't had any. That's why so many people are using it on the team, because it makes it so easy to talk to candidates that way.
Yeah. And I can attest, I've seen your unsubscribe reports. You basically have none. No unsubscribes, no opt-outs. So, all right. So we have another here. Are there any additional areas that you're considering using text messaging?
There's a lot of different ways we could use it. I mean, in our business model, we're always trying to figure out how we can utilize text messaging to work with our potential donors and that sort of thing. Certainly from the overall onboarding experience, I think there's some tools and technologies that Sense offers that we could be you know, considering in the future. So there's definitely always things that we'll kind of look at and see if it's streamlined some of our programs and processes.
Yeah, definitely. Okay, we got a few more, Carrie. How does it work with email too? Is one better than the other, or do they work together?
So I've tested this a lot, by the way. So what I do is I'll tend to take my text message and put it in an email. So even though it looks kind of like a short email, but it's coming directly from my work email then. But I'm 9 times out of 10, they're responding to the text message before they respond to the email. If you think about it, like, you know, not everybody has access to their personal email at work, but everybody has a phone in their pocket. So they're just responding via text message.
Do you find too that you'll use it as, let's say you have important paperwork that you need filled out, you'll send an email and then quickly have a text follow-up just saying, hey, I sent you an email.
Yeah.
Okay.
Absolutely. I mean, I think it's a lot, you know, I probably over communicate, and I wish maybe one of my TA partners was on too and they could speak to it. But I think a lot of the times it's send the text message, send the email, quick, make a phone call. And I don't know if other people are like me. I don't even listen to my voicemails anymore. So, and I think a lot of candidates are that way too. So you just try to like put yourself in the mind of a candidate and how their day-to-day operations are. And text messaging is just so much more seamless.
Yeah. Yeah. I agree completely. All right, it looks like we have two more, Carrie. Did you find it difficult to get your recruiters to embrace text messaging after being accustomed to phone and email for so long?
Sort of. It was a mixed bag, right? And so what I will say again, you have to promote the adoption of the program. So like the people that were having early wins and seeing successes, I really was my intention was always to talk about it. So we would use examples, we would give examples, and especially like the calendar feature, like people weren't quite sure, like, how does this work? But the minute they started using it and seeing how much easier it made their life and how much faster, they were able to like move on to other things.
Yeah.
It was very, easy to get them to adopt it. But again, you have to, as my role as the leader was really to kind of showcase that and help kind of walk them along the journey a little bit.
Yeah. Yeah. And in my experience working with you and other customers as well, it really does kind of take that one adopter that is seeing success and kind of being that catalyst of the program. And I love that you continue to bring up the use of it and reports. And I know I even remember you saying you pulled like resources in of just stating the facts of like how texting will help benefit your recruiting process and everything like that, and just keeping that kind of forefront with the team. So I love that.
Well, and I think like the proof was in your data, right? Like the number one communication, the way that people want to be communicated was texting. Like, I don't know how, if you have somebody that's struggling to like adopt that method, maybe give them some of the facts, right? Like candidates, they want to hear from you over text messages. And also, you're going to have more time in your day if you're text messaging them versus having to always pick up the phone and call them. Not that I'm against phone calling, because I'm old school recruiter. Like I was smiling and dialing when I first started doing this job, but and so in some instances I almost missed the phone a little bit, but I just see higher engagement from the talent pools when we're text messaging.
Oh, spot on. All right, our last one here. Passive candidates sometimes send negative replies to my recruiting text, such as never text me. Any suggestions for successful texting to passive candidates?
A lot of times it is like I try different text messages, because I maybe have gotten those text messages before, but when people do give you feedback that they don't want to be texted, I do stop texting them. I don't text them. But then also, if you're seeing that common theme with certain messages, then I would look at how am I asking the questions.
Mhm.
And oftentimes my initial outreach to candidates is very vague. Like, so sometimes I'll text them that video you saw of Chris Buckley. We have a whole onslaught of employee spotlight videos. And so I'll share with them like, hey, this is what it's like to be a donor engagement professional at Be the Match. Would you be interested in hearing more? Let's set up a time to talk. So it could just mean changing your messaging. And you don't always have to put the hard sell, right? Sometimes it's just about keeping it open-ended, and perhaps that will drive a little different response. But you have to kind of try different messages to see what works. I always say we're building the plane as we fly it. So you got to figure out what's going to get people to want to respond to you in a positive way.
Yeah, no, I agree. Trial and error for sure. And kind of, you're right, mixed bag of different types of content, call to actions, personalizing with a high first name, things like that. I know we're almost at time. We do have one more question. Do you use it for marketing a new role for all marketing purpose or interview process?
Pretty much everything. Like I said, I've used our employee spotlight videos, which would be a marketing, right? I've used it to schedule phone screens. I've used it for my job fairs. So pretty much everything. We've used it. It's just, it's another form of communication, and it just drives more engagement than I've seen over the years than like regular phone calling, which again, I'm old school. I'm a smile and dialer, so I'm not against phone calls at all. I just know sometimes it's like the quick message, hey, can I call you quick? I want to prepare you for this interview. Quick text message, and they respond that way, and then you get them on the phone. So it's just another kind of technique.
Yeah, I love it. Well, we're at the 30-minute mark, so we'll need to wrap things up. But Carrie, seriously, thank you again for sharing your story. Loved hearing your perspective. If anyone else here listening has any additional questions, please feel free to contact us directly and we'll get those answered. To everyone, thank you again for joining and hope you have a wonderful rest of your day and a great week.